I'm going to give a presentation, particularly with the topic that is having fun or having kids. Fertility attitudes and aspirations of pursuing pleasures. So this is, again, a joint work with my postdoc, Dr. Yujing He. So I'm presenting for all of you. So what is the study about? We know that delayed parenthood and voluntary childlessness have actually increased in the recent decades and across many societies. Many scholars try to link these two phenomena with structural factors and ideational shifts. And according to the second demographic transition theory, that we all know that the rising aspiration of self-fulfillment and the adoption of postmodern values may contribute to the preference for having kids late or choose to be child-free. While childbearing seems to be postponed or avoided if it does not serve to the pursuit of higher orders. And many qualitative studies actually reviewed something that is very interesting, that young adults nowadays not only kind of postponing or avoiding childbearing for pursuing or establishing their careers, but also for the freedom of enjoying life pleasures. Traveling around the world, do what they want. But when we think about it, many existing studies are quite qualitative, while very few quantitative studies testing SDT have not explored how aspirations to pursue pleasure and stimulation as part of higher order needs are associated with individuals' fertility attitudes. So to address this gap, this study actually examines how fertility attitudes are associated with aspiration to pursuing pleasures. So regarding fertility attitudes in this study, we're focusing on the attitudes towards late parenthood and approval of voluntary childlessness. Well, to measure aspirations of pursuing pleasures, we're actually focusing on two human values, the value of hedonism. So this value is characterized by seeking pleasure, self-centered gratification, opportunities to enjoy life. And the value of stimulation is characterized by seeking excitement, novelty, and challenges in your life. So according to the second demographic transition theory, that as part of higher order needs, seeking pleasure or stimulation to achieve leisure aspirations are expected to be associated with fertility attitudes that is favoring late parenthood or voluntary childlessness. Well, another theory, another psychological theory, the theory of basic human values, they treat the value of hedonism and stimulation values as part of values that is openness to change. And this value of openness to change is motivated by the need for growth, particularly the growth to achieve personal goals. It actually reflects higher order value orientation. It emphasizes autonomy, and individuals with with values openness to change are more likely to follow untraditional life courses. So if in this way, we kind of can expect that individuals holding stronger hedonism or stimulation values are more likely to prefer late parenthood and approve of voluntary childlessness. So this is our first hypothesis. Well, we also tested whether this association will vary by gender and also by the culture of child-centeredness. So when it comes to the parenting, very often the mothers bear the greater responsibility for childcare. And also, women kind of feeling more the incompatibility between having fun or having kids. So therefore, we can naturally expect that compared to men, women holding high hedonism or stimulation values are more likely to prefer late and also approve of voluntary childlessness. Well, we also further tested whether this association will be moderated by the culture of child-centeredness. So you can think about in a country that is very child-centered, children's needs or well-being are always prioritized, even at the cost of the parents. And parents in a very child-centered societies, particularly parents with very hedonistic mind or seeking stimulation, they could feel more incompatibilities between becoming parents and their original lifestyles. So in this way, we can think that in a country that is more child-centered, individuals who are holding hedonism and stimulation values are more likely to prefer late and also approve of voluntary childlessness than in a country that is less child-centered. Well, on the other hand, think about the child-centeredness. It actually reflects the importance of children in a family. Even in a very child-centered society, those who have hedonistic and stimulation-minded, they will still feel the pressure to become parents, and particularly becoming very good parents. So we could actually expect alternatively that in a country that is very child-centered, those who value hedonism or stimulation are more likely to prefer late, but not reject parenthood. So this is our third hypothesis. So this study actually makes use of the European Social Survey in 2018. So to test our fertility attitude comprehensively, we have 3 outcome variables. The first one is preference for late parenthood. We define preferring late when an individual's ideal age to become parents is 3 years or more older than the average ideal age of the corresponding gender in their own country. And we define approving of voluntary childlessness when a person say he or she approve or strongly approve if a man or woman chooses never to have children. Our last outcome variable is combined attitudes. It is a kind of combination or generated by the previous 2. So it's a multinomial and has 4 categories. So not late and disapprove of voluntary childlessness is the most traditional one. And we treat it as our reference group. So now let's looking at the measure of independent variables. When it comes to measuring hedonism value and stimulation, we use the human value scales. So both of the values range from 2 to 12. When it comes to the moderator child-centeredness, we actually measure it at the country level. So if so it's actually a country level percentage of people agreeing to the statement, parents' duty is to do the best for their children, even at the expense of their own well-being. And we applied multi-level regressions with random intercept. So let's looking at the result. Result number 1, it is the result from binary logistic regression to predict preference for late parenthood. So we can see that the stronger the value of hedonism and stimulation, the more likely a woman prefer late parenthood. However, the result for men is insignificant. So result number 2, regarding the outcome for predicting approval of voluntary childlessness, well, we can say we do not find significant association between the 2 values and approval of childlessness, both for men and women. And result number 3, what about if we're looking at the combined preference? So we actually find that both hedonism and stimulation values are positively associated with the late and approval category, the most liberal one. And there is some minor difference. Hedonism is also associated with the not late and approval, while stimulation is positively associated with the late and disapproval. But overall, we don't find any significant result among men. So the result presenting here are still only found among women. And the result number 4, I think, is the most interesting one. What about the child-centeredness at the country level? We actually try to interact with country levels child-centeredness, and the results are visualized here. It shows the stimulation, but the result for hedonism are still very similar. So looking at the figure, we know that there are 2 lines. One is the dashed line that reflects a country that with average level of child-centeredness. Well, another one is solid black line. It reflects a country that is very highly child-centered. And what kind of country looks like? It's Montenegro and Croatia. So it's quite highly child-centered. So, and the x-axis is reflecting the score of stimulation values, and the y is the predicted probability for the 4 category. And overall, we can see that in a country that is more child-centered, individuals scoring high in stimulation values becomes less likely to choose not late and approval, but more likely to opt for late and disapproval among both men and women. To put it simply, in a more child-centered country, that people who are very hedonistic and seeking stimulations are more likely to preferring late, but not reject parenthood. So these are the outcomes. As a summary, we find that hedonism and stimulation values are associated with fertility attitudes. Particularly significant association was found with preference for late parenthood, but not with the approval of voluntary childlessness. And the result only found among women, not among men. Well, regarding the combined preference, we find that hedonistic and stimulation-minded women tend to shift away from the very traditional preference to preferring late and approve of childlessness, but this does not apply to men again. Lastly, we find that in a country that is more child-centered, individuals with a stronger hedonism or stimulation values are more likely to prefer late, but not rejecting parenthood than if they are in a country that is less child-centered, probably due to the social pressure to become parents, particularly becoming very good parents. So that's all. Yeah, thank you.